Hello, Jim Distortion, doing a daily short for Distortion's got issues in my studio with an orange face because the fire's on because it's freezing. I want to talk to you today about injustice. Injustice is a quality that relates to unfairness or undeserved outcomes. There's no grey in the world, really. There's right and wrong. Yeah, there are shades of grey when you need there to be to argue yourself out of a point. You know, you either know something or you don't. You're either right or you're wrong. Grey areas are for politicians and people that need a scapegoat, an out, a way out from what they've decided that they're going to say or do. Injustice is something like a friend of mine getting into a scuffle in Stevenage, which he didn't start. And then the police ran in, grabbed him from behind, so he chinned one of them, put him on his arse. The copper then states that he shouted that the police were coming and he didn't, and it's not on CCTV. And of course, what ended up happening was my friend went to prison for it, because people would rather believe something from a man in a little blue suit, even if he did get his ass handed to him in one punch. By the way, if you're a copper and you get knocked down in an affray, yeah, and it's one punch from a guy who wasn't that big, you're in the wrong job, mate. Yeah, think again. Okay, injustice also is the way that, you know, the life isn't fair. Okay, I've been told that since the day I was born. Okay, and you shouldn't expect life to be fair. Life is difficult, life is tough, life is a struggle. But what life shouldn't be is one thing for one person and one thing for somebody else. Usually that comes from when people have the money to buy something you don't. And I'll tell you where we're heading. Sorry, I had to throw something in the bin. I'll tell you where we're heading with that, with the healthcare system. If you can't afford to have cancer, then you'll die. If we lose the NHS, if we lose the people who look after us when we're sick, because the government has decided that money is more important than people's lives. The welfare system was set up to help people who couldn't help themselves, and also, you know, provide the British people with healthcare. You know, for the first time, you know, it was providing something special: housing, healthcare, dental stuff, all of that to provide a better life for the people in the country. And for once, somebody did something right in politics. And ever since then, we've been sliding down a hill into disrepair. More and more you're hearing that about hospitals that, you know, £500 million hospital that sat there empty because they haven't got the money to open it. Understaffed because they're not paying their staff enough, so they're going private. The staff are finding better places to go. You know, there are people who have worked their whole lives in the NHS who've given over everything to help people, to help other people, and they're being rewarded by being shafted. That's injustice. I hate it. It drives me mad. If some person says something to you, tells you how you should behave, and then behaves in entirely a different fashion, that's injustice. Yeah? If you don't know something, or you don't know how to do something, don't make out you do, because even that's injustice on the weakest level. Yeah? You find yourself in a position where you're in trouble, you expect to be able to go to the police for help. But when the police are self-serving, like, you know, like politicians, you know, then you've got nowhere to go. And what's happening as well is when they're talking about private, you know, private police forces, GS4 and all that, you know, when somebody's getting paid to be a bully boy and wear a little uniform above and beyond the police, the accepted police that we have, and they're given powers of arrest, then corruption is not too far behind, is it? You know, the injustice levels on that would be enormous. You know, you've got the wrong people. I remember when policemen, they had to be over a certain, I think it was over 6 foot or something, had to be a certain, you know, tall, and they did that. And when I was a kid in Somerset, right, coppers, you didn't argue with a copper. Right, we did, but you didn't, you know, it wasn't a done thing. So, you know, you'd go and run around, he goes, I know who your dad is, I'll go and tell your dad. And you thought, oh, do you know what, I don't need that kind of grief. All right, I'm going. Right. A copper also gave me a clip behind the ear once as well, because I bloody deserved it. I was knocking on people's doors, running away, and then told the copper he was an idiot, and he bashed me right around the back of the head, right? And I literally cartwheeled down the grass, okay? And that's not a good thing. You can't, you know, that's not a way to behave. But I'll tell you what it did do. It kept me straight for a little bit. It stopped me. It made me stop and think. There are no consequences to anyone's actions anymore, so injustice doesn't matter. You know, Matt, the guy who punched the copper, ended up doing 2.5 years inside for that. It was one punch in the middle of an affray because the policeman decided that he was traumatised by it. If people can hide behind these mental illnesses, yeah, and start saying that everything's affected their lives, you're going to get a smack in the mouth. You're a copper. You're going to get it. That's what you signed up for. Your lives are in danger every single day, and we respect you for it. We lose respect when people like him take on, you know, all that they can get for no other reason than he didn't want to put on his little blue suit anymore. He thought he'd have an easy life, sit at home. If you get PTSD from being punched in the face, I'd be dead by now. I've been punched in the face more times than you can shake a stick at. I was on the door on and off for 20 years. Yeah? And you don't take it personally. It's not personal. You're not punching the person. You're punching the doorman, who's a nameless, faceless person who gets put in the way to try and protect everyone from people like you punching them. It's not something that's good, is it? It's not, you know, obviously every system has its bugs. Every system has its bad players. Politicians. Like I said about the 20%, even if there's 20% of the politicians that are self-serving in politics, it still corrupts the rest of the system because they have influence to other people and it's knock-on effect. Injustice is not something that anyone should tolerate. And also, just because a policeman or a lawyer or a judge tells you that that's the way it is, you should never just accept that. There's always avenues to go down. You know, if you're a law-abiding citizen and you know you get caught up in something that you shouldn't have been, it's just misfortune. Yeah, it's a bad thing. If you've represented yourself well, then you shouldn't be punished for it. All right, he punched somebody in a fight, but then he was drawn into that fight. He was pulled into them by some little scroats in the Witherspoons, right? We've all been there. Someone's gobbed off, someone's thrown a punch, you've reacted, and all of a sudden there's a mass bundle. Yeah, well, it used to be fun, you know. When we were younger, we used to have Western-style bar brawls and end up laughing at the end of it. It seems now that everyone's taken this... I don't know what the mentality is. Everyone's taken this stance now of, you know, you can't have a punch in the face, you can't get hurt, you can't do anything. Obviously, if you hurt and damage someone and you maliciously try and do it, right, then you're an arsehole and you deserve to go down, right? But if you throw a punch to protect yourself from what you thought was somebody else, somebody should look at that. And that's genuinely what happened as well. And you can see it on CCTV, but they've ignored that because the coppers cried wolf. How many times before coppers crying wolf, then nobody listens? I don't know. Old stories usually tell the truth, don't they? Cry wolf enough times, no one's going to care, are they? Anyway, I will leave you to it. So, if you want to be notified about my new videos that come out every day, or the big long ones, then when you press the subscribe button, there's a bell. Make sure you press on that bell icon and you'll be told every time a new video comes.